problem isn't emotion, it's translation. So even if you think of yourself as logically emotional or emotionally logical, you still are going to come back to the same bridge where you're going to have to cross it and find a way to communicate in what we call a compromise or amicable way, right? When we think of conversations and talking to other people, we hear people say all the time, well, I'm just so emotional, or I'm a logical thinker. These can become blurred lines because most people assume that emotional means loud, reactive, responsive, out there saying what you have to say, which is not always necessarily true. You can be very emotional on the inside and extremely stoic on the outside. So what one person might consider logical, you're just stoic, right? And you're extremely emotional. This is where you get people who we say they snap. They didn't snap. You just didn't see all of the emotions going on the inside of that person and brewing and stewing, needing to be released because they don't feel seen or have a way to translate that into what we call words. Now there's people who call themselves logical. Logical sounds like they have a structured argument. They can say things in a way that are calm, cool, and collected that makes sense to everyone else. But emotionally, they might not have any clue of what they're saying because their emotions are not what we call aligned with their truth. So there's people when I hear them say, I'm a logical thinker, I'm a logical speaker. That's okay. All I hear is that you have to process your emotions in a way that takes detachment to you not being a human. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. In order to be actually logical, you have to step away from being a human momentarily. Because as humans, we are emotional beings. We have a ton of emotions all the time. And what I always tell people, especially on this journey of spirituality, you learn that emotions are chemistry. Because anytime when we meet someone or interact with someone, something in our body changes and we start reacting to them in a way that's either good, bad, sensual, happy, calm, irritated, whatever. That's some type of chemical happening inside of us, right? We call it alchemy and different things where our body is transmuting energy into something that we can't translate into words. So we have to find a way to make sense of these feelings. This is why communication is important, because it is the bridge that holds these two worlds together, but it does not always guarantee that it will be without conflict, okay? So for this topic, I wanted to talk about how you can have the same emotions and a different delivery. Now, it wouldn't be story time without JAH without telling a story, but I think this is a good one to tell because for myself, it's how I navigate relationships. Now, to this day, I don't know if I'm wrong or right, but I had to do what was best for me. And that's where discernment kicks in. And again, discernment is using your logic and emotional worlds together to come up with what best suits you at that time. So I tend to call in very stoic seeming personalities. I meet people where, as far as dating or friendship wise, they seem real calm, cool, and collected on the outside. And I'm attracted to that energy because for myself, I am very outgoing, I am very outspoken. And so most people just assume because of that, it means I'm emotional. And I am emotional, but I am a logical speaker. I'm a logical thinker as well. But emotionally, how I feel, it's always going through this process of trying to figure out why someone said something the way they said it, why they feel the way I think they feel, what I think they're feeling because of something that might have been said. And again, people can call it anxiety, all these other things, whatever you want to label it as. I am not here to try to be a perfect being. I'm here to tell you how I express my energy along this journey of figuring out life. And so when I attract these people into my life, again, I met this person where, and I always use my relationships as an example because they're the past and they're the best experiment evidence that I have to work with, right? So I met someone a long time ago where they were a beautiful soul. They showed up They were consistent with time and giving me attention. This one I was like 19, so this is just going way back. And they were the most beautiful person to me. Like, they didn't text a lot, they didn't respond a lot. So I took that as they're not interested. But when we hung out, they gave me so much attention and time and were gentle with me and loved on me and were just there for me. But in this moment in my life when I was younger, I didn't know the difference between what we call an emotionally logical person. Because to me, when you're able to be attentive in person, that makes you more emotional. And your logic is, well, we don't need to be on the phone all the time. It's for me to show you that I care. A logically emotional person, they're gonna be feeling what they want all the time, and you need to do it in this way because it doesn't make sense why you're not texting all the time. It doesn't make sense why you're not doing what I need you to do, right? Because we want that logic to feed our emotion. We want that logic to make sense. So we're going to press what we think should be the right template of how someone should act. And so again, me and this person, at this time when I'm young, I'm dating whoever I want to date. There's no labels, there's no titles. And I'm just going back and forth and dating who all these people I want to. And I just remember that I used to think when I was with this person, they never talked about anything. But they were so gentle and sweet, and they were always there with me and kind to me. And every time I needed them, they would show up. But in my mind, I needed words. I needed affirmation of words. I needed constant stimulation of, tell me you like me. Tell me you're here for me, even though they were showing up and proving it all the time. Again, I had no wisdom at this moment in my life, so I didn't know how to interpret that into, oh, they're just somebody who is emotionally logical, where I will show you how I feel about you, because emotionally, this is who I am. I don't need to say it. They're processing everything on the inside. Versus me, I process everything on the outside. I'm always talking about how I feel and think and talk, which is why when I hear someone say they're illogical, I pick on logical thinkers all the time because I'm a logical thinker. And I will come up with every scenario in the world and every avenue of what some output could be before I actually allow someone else to just be what they need to be and just watch the experiment. So I am guilty of that. I am not innocent of being one of those people who believes that because I speak well and I can articulate information well and that I can get to the point or matter of fact or choose a side makes me logical. That just means I'm more cutthroat. It's that simple, and people need to be honest. In order to be logical, you have to be cutthroat. You have to be like, listen, we only can do one of these or the other, or we can do both at the same time, but somebody's gonna have to make way, right? Something's gonna have to be sacrificed a little bit for both of these to work. May it be time, money, whatever the topic of discussion is, you have to know how to meet in the middle to be logical. Emotionally, you find the gray zone, right? It's like, well, I can do this, but I can also do that. So if I do this in this way, maybe this will work out that way, right? That's the massage of emotion, because you have to always make room for that. We have so much discourse in this world now because people aren't able to understand that emotionally you can feel however you want to feel. Logically, this has to be done. Same bird, different stone, right? You can logically understand that something has to be done this way, but emotionally, people have emotions. People have feelings. So even if you don't care, they're still gonna care, which will affect the outcome of, again, your status, your money, your identity, whatever, because that's just how this world works. So back to the story, me and this person were dating for months on end. And for me, I just wasn't feeling like I was getting the verbal confirmations I needed. And of course, eventually I ended up just stopped talking to them. And until this day, I still think, what happened to them? Like, we would have been an amazing couple had I had the tools that I know I have now. And even now when I meet people, I want you to think about when we go into dating situations. Conflict feels confusing because we're trying to make someone feel how we feel or think how we think. Every time we're going into any type of situation where you have to understand that we are not raised the same, we are not from the same environment, we don't have the same understanding of life or even the same, let's say, opportunities. It's going to change how we feel and think and how we process that information. So When we start understanding that again, there are people who know how to stay emotionally calm, but they are logically thinking through everything and they're feeling everything. And emotional people, the people who are emotionally logical, they're the most quiet people ever. You think that they would be more emotional because they're leading with emotions. No, they understand that, well, if they're crying, let them cry. Let them get it out. Because logically, the tears are just an expression of release. Now, a logical, emotional person, okay, stop crying. That ain't gonna help. But you saying that is not gonna help either, right? There are times when, yes, you have to suck it up and burn through it, but forcing someone through their tears is just going to bottle up that emotion. That's why I go the opposite way. So when I say logically emotional on the outside, you come off very smart, intelligent, put together, but emotionally, everything's all over the place. And I know this about myself. My emotions are always all over the place, which is why I got into emotional intelligence, to make sure that, why do I feel like I want to snap things in half? Why do I feel reactive? Why do I feel like I can't be responsive? Because I wasn't given the tools as a young child to know how to be emotionally responsive right away. Everybody is reactive. Everyone is loud and over talks each other. And to everyone else, we come off as the most logically smart family. But in that house, we are so emotional. We're all emotional bombs, ready to explode all the time, because we attach meaning to words. And that's the danger of logical thinkers. You attach every word, or every emotion you have is attached to a word. So if someone says the incorrect word, you take that emotionally to heart. That's why bullying is such a thing, right? Because if someone can bully you, if they're not touching you, they're just saying words, that is you attaching meaning to words. So someone can say, your mama. For you, for me, it's just a phrase. To you, that means, oh my God, you talking about my mama, you disrespect my life, my culture, Okay, when people say that stuff, I'm like, okay. Because when you're young, everyone said that. So I had to be like, am I gonna fight everyone? No, that makes no sense. So you just get to a point of understanding like, okay, I cannot attach all of my emotions to words. Critiquing something, right? I was huge on that when I was younger because we got critiqued a lot. So because of that, I had to learn how to act a certain way and say certain words just to get the type of response I needed to feel loved. So because of that, logical, emotional people tend to be way more reactive and explosive than emotionally logical people, right? Emotionally logical people have the ability to feel what is happening. We call it empathy. You can still have empathy being a logical, emotional thinker, but when you are emotionally logical, you are much more empathetic to the moment. You are much more of a slow burn because you understand that I can feel all these feelings all day. It does not mean that the other person feels the same way. That's where people who are emotionally logical, they attach logic to emotion. I hope you guys are following with me because I know I'm using these words a lot interchangeably, but if you get it, you get it. So if you are emotionally logical, you're attaching logic to emotion. That's when you're able to talk yourself through your feelings. And as I've gotten older, I've been able to become emotionally logical, where I can feel something and know that's how I feel, but understand that that's not necessarily the full truth. This is where that saying comes from, two things can be true at once. When you understand that the difference when emotions show up is how do I receive it and how do I respond, will save you so many arguments, so many disagreements, because in that moment, again, you can be with somebody, let's say they call them a contrarian or someone who loves to be argumentative. I will explain something to someone in my emotionally logical way of, well, this is how I feel, this is what I believe based on how I processed it. But then when they start irritating me, that's when I started becoming logically emotional, because I'm like, listen, I know that they're just trying to piss me off, but it's working. And that's when you come back to that bridge of, how do I want to respond or react in this moment? Because response and reactivity are one and the same. They are the same mirror. Dualistically speaking, they belong to each other. Polarized, yes, but dualistically speaking, reactivity and response are the same. because response is no different than cooking. When you're cooking something and you cook it at the right temperature and you pay attention to time, you're responding to something on how its process of chemistry is working to cook it thoroughly. If you're reactive, you turn up the heat too high because you want to speed up the cooking, and then all of a sudden it starts burning and smoking too fast, so now you're pissed because it's burning and you're getting all emotional. Same process, right, of cooking, but different responses. So understanding how to walk yourself through that timeline of, am I being more of a emotional, logical thinker and feeler, or am I being more of a logically emotional? Neither one is wrong. I'm not saying one is better than the other, because there are plenty of people where you'll meet them. And when I was using the dating story as an example, that person was a slow burn, but they also took too long for me at that time to validate what we were, right? Because I forget to add, we were talking, but there would go weeks on end when we didn't really communicate. But if I hit them up, they would show up and be consistent. And so for them, they might have been super in love with me. I have no idea, but they didn't express it like verbally. So I never knew. And some people need to hear that. For others, they just need to feel it. Just showing up, be there physically. I don't need to say it because I'm here. I'm showing up. And I've met someone recently who said that, well, I'm here, aren't I? Listen, that's not enough for me. You need to speak. You need to talk to me. Don't just be acting like you're this God's gift to the earth, because they were kind of egotistical. So in that situation, I was annoyed with them. But there are people who literally just communicating in that way isn't necessary for them to have the full feelings. And so when you do have conflict with someone, these are the moments of asking yourself, how do I like to show up and how do they like to show up? Again, just because you know how to talk yourself through your thoughts does not mean that you are logical. And just because you know how to feel all your feelings does not mean you're emotional. Again, my topics and conversations are always going to have this dualistic aspect where it sounds confusing, but it's true, right? I meet people who say, well, I'm logical, but they're basing every decision they make on how they feel in that moment. They're not actually thinking through the process. This is how you get people who decide whose life mattered more, or what's the issue? I don't see the problem with taking someone else's culture and just using it, because you're not logically processing it. So you're actually just feeling what you want to feel and being a douche, right? Let's just call it what it is. And then there's people who say, well, I'm emotional. I understand. I'm here for you. Okay, well, you can say all day, I hear you. I'm listening. I'm there for you. But if the person is saying, I don't need you to say that, I just need you to sit with me, and you're constantly trying to solve the problem, you're not being emotional, you're being logical. You understand? This is why the human being is so complex, because we are these things at the same time, all the time, and we constantly need to label things. Let me get things straight. We act like labels aren't important, but they are. If we don't have labels, then we don't know how to communicate. I'm not saying that you should go out and label people as far as discrimination, but I know this is a shirt because we call it a shirt. If we didn't call it a shirt, what do I call it? We wouldn't have a name for it. We just say, give me that thing, and everything would be called thing. Thing one, thing two, thing three, right? Like, we have to give things titles and labels so that we understand how to communicate what it is, which is why the emotional state of being is important, because again, it allows us to, again, when we talk about internal versus visible, emotional, I would say emotionality can be visible. You see it on someone's face when they're disappointed. But there are some people where they look perfectly fine and you don't know that they're disappointed because they have a controlled inner emotional world. So when you understand that people are going to communicate differently and show up in different ways, you start respecting other people's journeys. Now, when I interact with someone who I see is not responding the way I want them to respond or interacting the way I want them to interact, I give them time. I know, right? That's so simple. But a lot of us are so quick to dismiss, cut off, close down, shut down. Again, I'm not innocent. I'm talking from a place of experience, from the receiving end and from the giving end, okay? Which is why I always tell myself, I give people a year to show me. Some people say, well, that's too long, but in certain relationships, listen, I've been sacrificing my fan and my air conditioning so y'all can hear me clearly. I'm hot, so I'm gonna be wiping my face, like I said, and drinking water. But anyways, I give people a year. If they are in my life and they matter to me, I give them a year of growth, because growth is not overnight. It's not just gonna happen overnight. I'm not saying stay with abusers. I'm not saying stay with people who disrespect you or people who are condescending towards you. I'm saying if there's someone in your life you really care about and you see that they're showing up for you. Let's say you just meet someone and you go on a date and you have a good time. You enjoy each other's company, but they don't text you daily. They don't text right away. When they do text you, it's 1 or 2 word sentences. It's up to you if you want to say, you know what, this is not enough. You got to go and dismiss that person. Or you can say, you know what, I'm going to do the slow burn and give this person time to catch up to where I'm feeling. Because sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes it takes 1 or 2 months to really get to know someone's communication style. And then that's why they say, that's why that whole 90-day rule thing happens. I'm not saying I apply it to my life, but I am saying it does take about 3 months to really figure out, like, do I want this person in my life? By the 90 days, you understand how they communicate, how they operate. Within this time frame, have they showed up for you? Have they been there for you in a way that shows that they're interested or care about you? These are the parts of what I say experimentation you're supposed to apply to your life. All of life is an experiment. You're not meant to just sit here and receive and take it all, right? Like, that's how people's lives blow up, because they literally accept the chemicals that are given to them. I'm not saying you always have full control over that, but you do get to play with the formulas, which then affect what the equation becomes. This is why I tell people it's important to don't just accept the script that's handed to you, which means, well, my dad always yelled and my mom always yelled, so I'm a yeller. That's not an excuse. You can do the work to make sure that you change that. Well, no one in my family really expressed their emotions. We didn't talk. We didn't say we love each other. Okay, I understand. And that's hard to do something that you're not used to, but you have to do the work, right? This is where I was in the last relationship. I will say this, and I've said this before, I'm a perpetual dater because I would rather date people and get to know people and decide what it's gonna be before I know what it's gonna be than to jump into relationships and then stay in them because I gotta beat myself in the mud with this person and go through all these hardships and say, well, we fought for years, but we made it. That's not me. No, I will stay single and date and enjoy my dates and learning people, because again, life is a huge experiment. So I would rather just experiment to experience than to experience and be experimented on. Catch it if you caught it. So it's important to understand that how we again approach the world is up to you. I'm just giving you what I've been through so you can use it as valuable information that might help you in your situation. But again, I give people time now. That's helped me tremendously understand that processing my emotions, or what we talk about when we talk about all these attachment styles, anxious attachment, secure attachment, all this, right? Anxious attachment is literally a logical emotional person, because logically they're thinking, okay, well, we met, we talked on the phone, we're attracted to each other, okay, we should be talking all the time now we should be kissing, now we should be doing this, now we should be moving in together. Like, logically, that all makes sense. If I like you, you like me, this is the way it should work. But your emotions are not contained, they're just all over the place, right? A slow burn, what we call secure attachment, or let's say this, before we even go to secure attachment, we go to the avoidant attachment. These are the people where they're on the opposite end, the extreme of emotionally logical, where they're feeling everything on the outside. You can see they're feeling it. What's that look like? They're shutting down. They walk away. They don't know how to express it in that moment. You want them to be able to say something to you. You're like, say anything, say something. And they're trying. They really are trying, but they're logically trying to process it all. And it's like watching a cow and a stone pull, or a mule just pull this stone. Like, are you kidding me? Get a tractor already. And you're watching this person try to catch up, but by the time they catch up, for an anxiously attached person or a logical emotional thinker and an emotionally logical thinker or avoidant attachment style, by the time they catch up, it's too late. That's why it's important to learn how to be a secure attachment for yourself, which is meeting in the middle. Secure attachment is I am both at both times. Not only am I logical, but I'm also emotional. Not only am I emotional, but I'm logical, right? As above, so below. When you can become that, that's when you see that you'll still be your attachment style. I think people forget that. You will always, on some level, be your attachment style. But if you're able to do the work, you can step across the bridge and recognize and respect someone else's attachment style. And it can slowly become something that you're used to, but you'll still stay on that bridge of being secure in yourself to know, if I got something to say, I'm gonna say it, right? Like, that's the part of these attachment styles people don't talk about. I will probably always be on some level anxiously attached because there's a part of me that I'm not gonna shut up. I'm gonna say what I wanna say and you're gonna hear what I gotta say. But I need somebody who's secure enough with themselves to know that's just how they express their energy. They're not attacking me. They're not coming for me. They're not trying to make me feel bad. They're just saying, hey, this is how I need to communicate to feel seen. And if I love them, I will let them have that moment, and then I will show up the way I need to show up, which is I need to walk away and process. I need this time to think about it. Let me come back to you after I've calmed down, because so much emotion is around me right now. I don't know what to do with that until I process it through my engine. Once they're able to do that, then they'll come back and meet you on that side of secure attachment, which is, hey, if you can give me that space at that moment of patience, I'll come back and speak to you. And we can work through this confidently together, right? So that's what it's all about. Again, remember, it does not matter if you think that you're one over the other, because I've met two logical thinkers and they are volatile. I've met two emotional thinkers and they're emotional feelers and they're distant, right? Because if you feel what you think I'm feeling and I'm feeling what I think you feeling, ain't nobody expressing nothing, so you both just sitting on opposite sides of the couch. If you're logical and you're like, well, this is what really happened and this is how it went down, you're both constantly going at each other's necks. Now, again, this could work where, again, they say you get people who are anxiously attached with avoidance because it's flipped. Yes, on some level, it is a yin-yang that could work if you both are secure within self, right? They shut down and need to step away and go process. You're reactive and responsive and need to talk about it now. If you both understand that, let them have their moment and come back and do it, and they know that, okay, I can't shut down forever and I gotta shut up for a minute, and you can come back in the middle, it can work. But realistically, it doesn't happen too often. So you need somebody who is also secure enough in themselves to understand that, like, this is how I communicate, this is how I feel, and this is how I think. Now, how I feel and how I think are not always gonna come out the way that you want, but if you can respect the journey of how I get there, I can respect the journey of how we communicate, okay? So as always, I want you guys to remember that your delivery is your delivery. How you receive it is how you receive it. But being able to process, again, if you agree or disagree with how someone communicates is up to you. It's going to be how, again, you develop your relationships, how you hold on to them, how you sustain them, because you're never going to meet anybody who's going to be exactly what you want them to be. So learning how to relax in yourself and let go of control is the only option and answer that you'll have. Now, how this applies to the spiritual journey, every emotion is spiritual. And we talked about this before. If you follow me long enough, you know that every emotion is spiritual because it is something that comes from the ethers that we have not really yet understood. We still don't have answers to it. We're still trying to figure out the human psyche. We're still trying to figure out our existence. So in order to do that, you have to feel your way through it. And the only way to feel your way through it is using the thinking process. So at all times, we're going to constantly be learning about ourselves on this journey of, I am human, I am a vessel, I am meant to feel and experience, but I'm also a soul. I am wisdom, I am knowledge, and I am meant to apply that to this vessel so that it understands what this journey is about, so that I have a tactile experience to feel my way through. When we think about the emotional journey of spirituality, And people talk about how they go into ecstasy and they release and they feel and they think and they just want to let go and start a whole new life. It's a beautiful feeling. But you're logically having to still physically move, physically come up with money, physically eat, physically experience other people's attitudes, right? So it's not going to change the journey because you're more spiritual. That's what I want everyone to remember. I love the spiritual journey. It's one of those things that once you're in it, you're in it forever. You don't walk away from spirituality. I'm just letting you know. That's why it can become very addictive if you don't know how to process your emotions, because then you spiritual bypass and you can say, well, the gods in the universe told me to say this to you and do this. I try my very best to never say, God told me to say this, or the universe told me to say this. No, the vessel, JAH, decided to say it because I felt it was something that needed to be said, because it's something that I know on my journey has helped me. And if it's helping me, it could possibly help you. Now, I'm not putting disses on anybody who says this spoke through them, because we really do. Energy speaks through me all the time. Energy is speaking through me right now, but I don't want to put that title on it and say that there's this omnipotent being telling me to say something to you, because that's not fair to your journey. Your journey is a solo journey and is meant for you, and whatever energy speaks through you and speaks to you, and how you process that and then go out and apply it to life is up to you. So I want people to remember that spirituality is the journey of understanding self. Point blank, period, nothing else. The tools, tips, tricks, meditations, and affirmations and things you learn along the way, again, just tools. They're not anything other than that. They don't make life better or worse. They just help you process what you're feeling and what you're going through. So as always, remember, may again you be emotionally logical or logically emotional, whatever the formula or mixture of both you want to be. Remember to give yourself time to process. Remember to have discernment through that journey of processing, and understand things are not always going to happen in the way that you want them to happen. So let life just happen. Okay? As always, thank you for joining me along this spiritual journey. I am JAH, your spiritual tour guide, and as always, I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Follow me out and my links below, epicenity.org, where you can find, again, digital downloads, products, services that might be applicable to your journey. As always, besos. Mwah.